You probably already know that adding an online education or a coaching arm to your existing agency would 2 to 3x your revenue and even profit. So why aren't you doing it yet? If you want to launch your first group coaching program that complements your existing agency services and get your next 5 to 10 clients in the next 90 days, then visit system.ly/foundations to learn a little bit more about our program and how we can walk you through a proven process that we've now taken over 150 agencies through to launch their group coaching program as an additional revenue stream that can really, over time, exceed and replace your done-for-you service revenue. If that sounds like something that you are interested in, visit us at system.ly/foundations, schedule a call to talk to myself and or someone on the team to see how it can apply to you and your business. Let's get into today's episode. Hey, what's going on, everybody? So we are jumping back to part 2 of 10 lessons from the trenches, which if you missed the last episode 55, go ahead and check that out because we brought you behind the scenes into the room for one of our 2-day client intensives that we have currently 3 times a year with our coaching clients for our leverage program, which is a 12-month coaching and accountability program. And like I mentioned in the last episode, we kind of share lessons that we've learned, mistakes that we made over the previous 90 days, and kind of how we're going to course correct moving into the next 90-day sprint. So in the last episode, we shared the first 3 lessons. So in this episode, we're going to jump into sharing a handful more before closing it out with part 3 of this little mini series, bringing you behind the scenes, 10 lessons from the trenches. Let's get it going. We talked about this yesterday, become the person that makes fast decisions. So at my table, I talked about this a lot. I'm not sure if everyone came around to my table, but we decided that the best way to sell leverage was based off this 1-day event called the Scalable Service Business Intensive. And a few people that are in leverage right now came from that event. So like the event worked, and after it worked, we're like, all right, let's do more of these. And then we realized, like after signing the contract to the hotel, that it wasn't the best decision, especially as we were bringing foundations back because we were diluted in our focus. And like we canceled the event. We canceled those events really quickly, but we also made another decision to like merge them because we were trying to like not lose the money that we were going to lose by canceling it. So we're like, hey, we had these 3 dates on the calendar. Can we like move them into 1 date? And we basically like tried to create a new product on the fly for those 3 days. It wasn't really a new product. It was like basically foundations, but delivered live. And like we made that decision quickly, and then like we started promoting it, and everyone that we were trying to sell it was actually buying the regular foundations. And we're like, all right, like we're, I don't know how many days out from the event, like cancel the event. We're not even doing it anymore. I actually just got a message from someone like, hey, like I can't find the link to the August event. I'm like, that's because the August event no longer exists, but we can do it virtually. Do you want to talk about that? And he's going to be scheduling a sales call. So like, hey, maybe that's like a new marketing tactic. Like, hey, we got this thing, and then just stop talking about it, and then just like bring it back. But if that turns into a close, that'll make another good ending to the story. But like, I think once we have started getting some of this momentum and we realized that was just another example of like trying to save ourselves into wealth, and we're like, wait, how much money are we going to lose if we just cancel this? And it ended up being like total of $3,000, but we already paid $1,500 or something like that, or is it just $1,500? So it was just $1,500. But if we pursued the event and we only got 1 person, we would have lost $13,000. So it's like, man, like we got to sell at least this many people. Like it's really slow. Everyone's rather taking the online version. Like, why are we trying to sell these 2 different things at the exact same time? Like it's hard, it's confusing. The online one actually costs more, so like I'm not going to stop them from wanting to get it. Like let's just keep going. And it's like, all right, like let's just cut it. And I think from a lot of the other lessons and the things we talked about yesterday is like, as you get clear on your vision and start asking yourself better questions, like you can make decisions faster and get out of just motion and move towards something that is actually useful. So yeah, we ate $1,500, but like we could have ate a lot more and wasted a lot of other energy.
When I hear make decisions faster, I always think about like making positive decisions, going in a certain direction. But what I'm hearing is that make decisions faster means don't be afraid to make a decision to go away from a decision that you've already made, right? Like,
yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, Russ talked about this also. He's a huge proponent of this. This dude makes decisions so fast, it's insane. Like, he's like, we're launching a podcast. They record 12 episodes. They launch 12 episodes. He's like, we're done with the podcast. It's over. And it's like literally like it just came out. I'm like, whoa. Like, he's like, we're launching this product. We've made a bunch of money. We refunded everybody because we don't want to do it anymore. And it's like, what the hell is happening over here? And like his kind of, you've heard me say this recently, is like, the feedback that you are looking for is on the other side of the decision, right? And so like, whether it's good feedback or bad feedback, like, hey, if he canceled the podcast and like his entire community was like, where the hell is the podcast? Bad decision, let's bring the podcast back. But like, nobody said anything. It's like, oh, cool. So like, I was spending all my time doing this, the production, like having all the team involved, the expense of doing that, and like, it wasn't, people didn't even notice it was gone, right? And so like, until he made the decision, like, he wouldn't know. And so, you know, we made it like, we weren't getting anyone interested. We, in our minds, over 60 days ago, said we weren't interested in doing it, and I get a message, you know, last night, someone looking for the event. You know, it's like, well, one person, like, it still will probably, or could eventually turn into a sale, but like, for 60 days, no one seemed to care that this event was gone. Like, we had been talking about it, spending time thinking about it, coordinating with the hotel, figuring out what workbooks we need to create, designing those, and like, spending money on that, like turning, you know, it costs money to do this thing, right? So like, it was gonna be another 3-day thing just like this, like 60 days away, and like, we had no one coming. So yeah, I think to that point, it's like, you don't know if it's gonna be positive feedback or negative feedback, but you need the feedback, and like, yeah, to make the next decision. Like, that was a good idea or that was a bad idea. Like, I shouldn't have done that or I should have done that, but like, you actually know because you did it, right? And so there's probably things that are, you know, you've been waiting to make a decision on, or like you've been thinking about, and it's like the real data on like, is my ad gonna work, is will people click on it and will people opt in? That's the feedback that you need right now. Like, launch the ad. You know, like, I worked on my copy for a while, launched the ad, and 2 days later I was changing it. I was like, oh crap, I forgot to do this. Let me fix it, relaunch it again. Like, I've launched 5 iterations of that ad since I launched the first one. And like, it's just boom, 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 boom. Like, understanding like what you're looking for. Okay, that's no feedback is feedback. But how is that gonna educate your next decision? Make sense? Anyone have any else to add on that? I can jump into the next one. Yeah? Catchbox. Oh, it's right in front of you.
Something you said to me right at the very beginning that made this lesson really click was, don't solve problems you don't have yet.
Yeah.
And so that, it was just, I mean, it's so simple, but
Yeah.
it's true, and it really let me start making decisions quickly and just doing things and not worrying about what if this happens and what if this happens. And, you know, we've never moved as quickly in the past couple months. You know, we've never moved that quickly,
Yeah.
and it's because of that. So, you know, not solving problems you don't have yet.
Yeah, that actually probably should have been one, because I have been saying that a lot. Totally. Who's trying to solve problems that they don't actually have yet? Yeah, stop. Like, wait till it's a problem. Like, you can't forecast. Like, there's some problems I think you can forecast, but I think marinating on it forever is a waste of your time. Like, don't assume people are going to have problems. All right. Next one, focus all your energy on the biggest bottleneck. This is something that I'd still say a student of and really doubling down on. So like, when we we're like, all right, let's not save our way into wealth, we got to double down on this thing. Like, well, why is Greg not confident in the messaging right now? Why are we, you know, gun shy on ads? Why are we all these things? And when we just kept asking ourselves that question, it was like, the messaging isn't clear. The messaging isn't clear. Like, and you've probably seen me start saying the word agency a lot. And like, I've been very hesitant to use that word because I never necessarily called myself an agency, but like, everyone that essentially comes to us is in some way, shape, or form has been an agency. And it's like, man, like, other peers of mine were like, dude, you serve agencies. Like, if you just said agency in that messaging, like, that thing would have made so much more sense. I'm like, God damn. It's like, I don't want to, like, resisted it. And so hired a messaging consultant. We're finishing up with her work right now. And, like, literally coming out of that, she's like, you should just be saying agency. Like, stop saying agency, service provider, consultant. She's like, that just is like, bleh. She's like, you just say agency, and if someone is like, even the people that might not consider themselves agencies, they'll still probably resonate just because you said the word agency. So like a lot of our refinement of messages, like, all right, like what's the bottleneck in me moving this thing forward is like, we don't feel clear on exactly who we're speaking to or how. Like, how do we figure that out? Like, let's go get someone that knows what the hell they're talking about that like can give us outside perspective. So when you have a bottleneck, wherever your bottleneck might be, and we talked about yesterday, like looking in those 5 core functions of your business: lead generation, lead nurture, sales, fulfillment, and retention, resell, upsell. Like, when you need to fix it, there's really only 3 ways to fix a bottleneck. 1, people. Who is going to get you through this bottleneck? We hired Lacey, who's a messaging consultant. Like, so the solution for us was hire someone that knows how to do this better than we do to get us through this bottleneck. The second is a process. Like, what process needs to be put in place in your business in order to like solve the bottleneck? Like, maybe it's like, hey, this every time we get on a sales call, like these people have no idea what we're even talking about. Like, go watch the application to close training. Like, start there. Like, that's a process. Like, take ours, modify it. Like, start with something. And the last one is a project, which is usually like the combination of possibly people and process. Like, maybe you need to install some technology. Maybe you need some people to help you with that. Like, we just moved from Infusionsoft to ActiveCampaign. Like, that was a project that encompassed people and process, right? So literally, those are really the only 3 ways you're going to fix a bottleneck. And so, like, figure out what your bottleneck is, and is it going to be a person that's going to come in and fix that problem for you? Is it a process that needs to be created, documented, and or possibly a project that like involves a couple of those different things all at once? So, and now that's unlocked us. Like, we're running ads. Like, I feel more confident in my messaging. Like, our emails are getting better. Like, my training feels like way clearer when I talk to people, and like how we're going to evolve the training, et cetera. Like, it's all getting clear just because we hired someone to help us on getting clarity on our messaging. So, like, I guess to take this to you guys, like, I mean, I already know because you said it all yesterday, like, you guys are all focused on way too many things all at once, right? And like expecting to move mountains. And it's like, if you just focused on the one thing that like is really preventing you from moving forward, like, you'll actually move forward. And you can also trick yourself. So like, my mistake on this was, and I think I've said this story before, like, I'm a product person. Like, I mean, I was talking to you guys, like, I want to continue to make the training, the support better. And so like, when our ads stopped working, I'm like, the product must be broken. Over to fix product. I'm like, that wasn't the problem. It was like, no, just our ad stopped working. like I should have just stayed over there and fixed that, right? But I'm like, no, this is where I feel comfortable. And like, that was like a 3-month waste of time, right? So that spun us into worse decisions, right? Or not worse decisions, just we learned from those decisions 100%. But like, understand like maybe where you might be comfortable, because like, you're like, this is the bottleneck, but like, maybe it's not actually the bottleneck, it's just where you feel comfortable, and like, that's why you're gonna go there. And like, so maybe ask some other people, like, is this, don't solve a lead generation problem with a product solution, right? That might not help. So anyone have anything, ahas, insights on that you wanna share? Or I could carry on.
I recommend The Goal.
The book, The Goal? Yeah, if you haven't read the book, The Goal, I don't know what your reading style is or preference. It's definitely, I could see it would be a challenging read for some people, although it's very storytelling. It's like, well, I thought, yeah, but we're like systems brain, like, it's like throughput and bottlenecks and like literally I'm like, I feel like I need to like be diagramming what they're saying in this story right now. But it's actually a really, really good book, kind of an old school book, I believe. Do you know the name of the author off the top of your head? Yeah, that's it. Check it out.
I was gonna say gold.
Yeah, gold something, yeah. Megan, maybe you can find the link on Amazon. Just drop that in the group.
For
The-
the affiliate one.
I need to sign up for that. What's that?
Write down those 5 areas of the company as you go through the bottlenecks.
Lead generation, lead nurture, sales, fulfillment or delivery, whichever term you use for doing the thing that you do. And then the fifth one is a combination of retention, resell, upsell. Keep clients paying, get them to buy again, get them to pay more. And then the other two, and this is like something Alex Charfin actually talks about, but like those are the 5 core functions. There's also finance and there's also HR. Those just don't get added as core because they're not like money-making activities. They don't necessarily keep the business running or growing. They're just kind of a necessary thing. I argue that, like, to dumb it down, maybe this isn't dumbing it down, but like lead generation is traffic, like paid partner organic. Nurture is like your marketing activities, like your podcast, like your emails, your webinars, like those sorts of things. And then obviously sales is your sales process. What's that one conversion method? You guys are all selling over the phone for the most part. Obviously fulfillment is your signature service and how you choose to deliver that. And then retention, resell, upsell, like how does Tim get people from major gift intensive into his back end program? How do we get people from foundations into leverage, right? How do you get someone that buys a website with you to like buy the marketing package or whatever you have on the back end, right? How do you get someone that goes to your workshop to buy into editing services, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All right. Yep. Was there? Oh, you're welcome. All right. This is one for all of you and myself. We need to be reminded more than we need to be taught. So, the story for me was like, and many of you, like some of the changes you're seeing today are like a result of we were releasing new training after new training, and like many of you guys weren't coming to it or consuming it. If anything, when we started doing the research, it was like, man, like I got this game plan and like this new training comes out and like it doesn't really feel like it's tied to my game plan, but like now I feel like I'm missing out, or like now I'm overwhelmed. And it's like, why are we keep releasing new training? Like when they should just keep doing the shit that they were supposed to be doing when they started. Like, and it kind of just got me thinking, like, one, that's why we are experimenting more with this, where it's like, let's talk about the things that you're dealing with versus like necessarily having to like create a new training every single month. Greg was doing a training, then, we had the back office calls, like we had all these things that was like shoving more and more content down your throat that like, I'd argue it's still good content, but like you don't really need it. I just need to be like, hey, Chris, do the thing that I told you to do when you started, like, because you're not done with it yet. Like, keep going, right? Like, and then bring those questions to us about that, and like let us like help you keep implementing. And I wrote this post on Facebook the other day, is like, when I look at like the people that are like, ahead of me or like where I want to be, or really just anyone kind of successful, like they never stop doing the fundamentals, right? It's like, cool, you go from foundations to leverage. Like that doesn't necessarily mean like you need tons of new content. It's like you actually just need to like double down on the things that you were doing and like get better at them and start scaling them up, removing yourself from some of those things, right? Like it's still the same thing. Like you still need to market, you still need to sell, you still need to serve your clients. Like maybe there's some, few advanced trainings here and there, but like we want to make sure we're not just like having you learn stuff just to learn stuff, and like that it's applicable to like what you're working on. So like that's for us part of like what we heard from you guys and saw from you guys, and also we were feeling, we're like, man, like we're suffocating them. Do you have anything to add on that? I feel like every time we've talked about this lesson, we kind of talked about it a little bit differently. Did I nail it like you were hoping, or?
Yeah. So it's, we just overwhelm, too much content, paying too much attention to lots of different things instead of focusing on what you should be doing. And so just reminding yourself, your team reminding you, what's your goals, what are your targets, what are you actually trying to do, and not getting distracted by shiny objects.
Yeah. Anyone have anything on that you want to? Molly, you got the box right there.
I do.
It's convenient. This whole table, just keep the box over there, guys.
I think that you guys owning that externally with us as clients is one thing, but I think that's also kind of true internally. Like as we've honed in on like, and I guess MK can add to it if she feels necessary. But like as we've honed in more on like what we're doing from like our signature service, and we've like pulled out things that we're not doing anymore, like it makes it so much easier to like be like, this is how we handle this exact situation, Amy and NK, and like we can create those templates. So like not just trainings like externally, trainings internally too, like for your team that you have, you know, like do they really need to know that if you're not going to do it anymore? So
yeah, like if you revert back to last intensive, there was a like we talked about the first 90 day client experience, and like there was that worksheet you guys filled out of like what is the absolute minimum that they need to get to the result that they want, and like, all right, can they like, and you list out the things that they need to know or the things you need to build, and it's like, all right, like, is there any scenario where they could do all of those things and not get the result? Yes. Okay, well then what else needs to be added and available for them in order to get to the result? And then you go back into your archive or figure out what you need to create and like put it in there. But like you want to like really focus on those things, and like, you know, I think just kept creating content, trying to keep it fresh for people. Hey, like I know it's there, but like almost that was, I think, in some ways more of like a negative thing, at least we felt. And like, hey, guess what? Now if we remove some of the need to having to do that, like we can double down on how we offer support to you through the things you're actually working on, instead of like us having to plan new content every single month. It's like, all right, like, what are you working on? How can we help you? Like, let's do that. Like, let's figure out that, right? So that was kind of how this played out for us. And like, again, you're all really, really smart people, obviously, because you chose to be here. Just kidding. But like, in so many ways, like you already know what you need to do. And like, I think part of why you're here is like you knew that, and like you kind of just need someone to like keep reminding you. And I think we don't need to remind you by creating more content. We need to remind you by like reminding you to do the thing that you haven't done yet that you're supposed to be doing. So you're probably going to see, we're going to have more questions for you, you know, over the next few months. As like I said, I'm starting to like do some interviews. Like I think Lisa will probably chat with some folks like team members. Like how can we focus on getting you like the stuff that you need to get done versus like shoving more content down your throat. So that's that lesson. Anyone else have anything you want to add to that? How that plays out in your own world? Josh? See? Still at the table.
Talk at a table. Yeah, just one quick thing. It's kind of a sidecar to this. It's not exactly what you're saying here, but it's something I've experienced recently in my personal life, is that I'm kind of a book geek. I'm always looking for the next cool book that I'm going to devour or whatever. And I've stopped buying more new books, and I've started going back to the bookshelf and reading the books that I have that actually I liked and I thought helped me. And reading those books with the eyes that I have now, kind of new eyes, and seeing more stuff, that I get different things from those books. And so it's like, you know, you don't need to take in more content, just go back to some of the basic stuff like traction or influence or some of the things that I'm like, oh God, how did I miss that the first time around? Or I just wasn't the same person when I read that book the first time. And now it means a totally different thing to me.
Yeah, like, I mean, it's back to this kind of like the idea of the bottleneck, right? Like, once you figure out the bottleneck is whatever, say sales, like, if you're going to consume anything, go consume stuff about sales, right? Like, don't go learning about whatever book just because like about leadership. If your issue right now is nothing to do with leadership, like go solve sales, like all of your energy, like fixing your sales process, like working on your sales skills. Like a lot of times when you have a bottleneck, it's I'd say it's like, in many ways, it's like the deficit of a skill that you just need to go acquire. It's like, how do you go acquire that skill? Well, shit, there's probably some training in the members area that you don't even know exists that's going to help solve your bottleneck. If we just knew what your bottleneck was, we could at least point you in the right direction, right? It's like to at least start helping you acquire that skill. But, you know, reading back on that book as it relates to the topic that you need to focus on, like that's the get informed, get the skills that you need to solve that bottleneck, and everything is focused on that until you fixed it. Like as the owner of the business, like literally everything's your fault. Like whether it's actually true or not, like in many ways it is. And like the second you start acting like anything that goes wrong in the business is your fault, like that's the ownership that you need to have in order to start moving things forward. Like, cause it's so easy to be like, oh, well, like that person didn't do implement the thing, or they missed that thing. It's like, well, they probably missed that thing cause like your process sucks, or you tried to manage a task, or you didn't give them enough information. There's always a way that it's going to come, like it can come back to you. So it's like the sooner you just accept that responsibility, like even in situations where it's like I still can't figure out how this is my fault. Fuck it, it's my fault. Like, how do I make sure it's fixed? Like, how do I need to show up differently to fix it, right? And usually it's going to be like, how do I lead the team differently, or maybe they don't have information that they should have, which is how it boils back up to, like, it's your fault. Like, own it. Like, anything that, like, client doesn't have a good experience and it was like they were interacting with someone else, it's your fault. Like, period. Why did that person say something wrong to the client? Like, you probably never didn't set appropriate expectations. Like, there's some way where it always come back to you as the owner. So, like, and I think this applies to, like, you want everyone in your team to, like, just feel like it's their fault. Like, it's they own it. Like, this is on me. I got this. Like, Megan's doing this a lot now. She's like, that was on me. That was my bad. And I'm like, actually, like, in the real scheme of things, it's probably my bad because, like, I didn't equip you. But, like, cool. Like, that's the mentality that you need to have, I think. Like, for people to, like, want to take that stuff and run with it.
If I gave you 5 to 10 new clients, would you or your agency break? If so, your current agency model is broken. I struggled with this too until I found a better way. By adding online programs, training, and coaching to our agency, we doubled profits without adding more hours. If you want to work directly with me and my team to transform your agency, visit myscalablebusiness.com to learn more.